Welcome to Raw Mind Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Jones. NFL talk today, getting these guys' raw thoughts. Jared Hegna, Brandon Crotchett, Tampa Bay guy. Know he's happy. We'll get into those details later. Got Jared Hegna here, NFL-wise, LA Chargers. We're going to get his thoughts. So, guys, whoever wants to start first. The NFL draft, how do you feel? You threw your hand away. Like you're saying, look, I don't even care who starts.
Yeah, we're very civil here, needless to say. Oh boy. My thoughts on the draft. Well, for one, I'm happy the Chargers went bold for once. Let's just point that out. Because they spent so long just not trading at all. And every year you just think, this is it. This is the time. This is when things go. And it never happens. And then all of a sudden, when it says Patriots traded pick number 23 to the Chargers, I just had to just double take for a second because I'm like, wait, huh? Like everything is broken now. It's like, am I living in the Matrix or something? Let's figure that out right now. But I'm happy with it. I mean, I kind of wish they drafted an offensive tackle, so that's really the only knock I have. But I mean, it can work. I know they drafted someone last year and they want to give him a shot, so I guess it's okay. But as far as a winner goes, I kind of have to say the Cowboys did really good. Just because CeeDee Lamb was the obvious pick. Well, may not be obvious pick just because there were bigger needs Dallas had since they kept Amari Cooper and everything, but the fact that CeeDee Lamb was slid as far as they did at 17 was crazy. I mean, that's a pick you make almost every time, especially because the Cowboys love making the big splash and everything. We know that about them by now.
Don't they?
They always care about that spotlight there. They want the smoke. But then they filled out all the needs. They got some good values there, so I just really can't fault them for that. That's pretty impressive. In the middle of a draft where they were, that's really good.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Brandon? Are you just ready to get to the other stuff?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm ready to get cracking to this. So, I mean, from the Bucs' perspective in the draft, I think they hit it out of the park pretty much. You know, they addressed a lot of the needs. Right tackle, DeMar Dotson was pretty much on his way out. You know, he's like 34 or 35. So
right.
They made a great draft selecting work, good impact players and start right out of the gate day one. You go in the second round, get a safety and Winfield, kind of shore up the back end of that secondary, and then getting Keyshawn Vaughn in third round. Just adding more depth to the running back position. I mean, I kind of wish this offseason they would have maybe traded to get Fournette, but depending on how well Vaughn is, I think he's a good consolation prize. They really solidified pretty much all that they need to do. And if I had to pick somebody maybe outside of the Bucs as far as maybe a winner, Ryan, you're probably gonna like this choice a lot. The 49ers.
Oh no, you did say the 49ers.
They did. You guys, we traded picks with y'all. Y'all did a good job, but you traded back a little bit. You were able to get Kinlaw. He was the guy that I thought maybe the Bucs might solidify in that defense. So it's just taking the small little steps to really improving your team overall. And so from a draft perspective, they did a really good job.
All right, my turn. I agree. It seemed like the 49ers was kind of content and happy with their picks. Like they didn't care for CeeDee Lamb, Derek Brandon. They didn't care for the big name. They were just fine with Kinlaw, the new kid, the best D tackle from paper and stats from last year was the kid, the D tackle that went to the Carolina Panthers. But the next best one was Kinlaw. So in that mind, they're like, when I look at the 49ers, guys, I look at the 49ers as a team like something similar to the New England Patriots. Get players for cheap, get great players for their value, and before they start asking for money, get them out. With Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they're not the types that want to pay the big price. Of course, they paid it for Jimmy Garoppolo, but people don't understand, like, Jimmy Garoppolo only got $70 million out of their contract, and there's still a lot of stipulations. That's another thing. People don't understand the stipulations and contracts. Just because their contract number stands out doesn't mean they get all that. So people can think that, but that doesn't necessarily mean those contracts to get all that money. It comes with a lot of sedatives and pay for performance type of stuff. I like the 49ers draft. I like the Cowboys draft. But I'm going to start with the 49ers first. 49ers draft, I felt like it was pretty good. They already had a solidified team. Could possibly, if healthy, if we have a season this year, be back in the NFC Championship, maybe play again in the Super Bowl, regardless of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, maybe next year, but not this year. So I'm just being saying now. You're in Tampa Bay, I get it. And look, in your mind, you're like, look, man, it's been since 2002, 2003. Look, man, look, let me be happy. Let me be great. So, I look at Kinlaw. I look at the kid out of Arizona State.
Ayuk.
What you say?
It's Ayuk. And plus, you have to mention Trent Williams, too. As part of the draft, just because.
Yeah.
That's big.
I said a good offensive lineman when Joe Staley went out, they went and made that trade with and the crazy part in my last podcast, guys, you probably don't know if you go to you'll see it. I predicted it, not to the 49ers. I felt like my intern asked me basically, she was like, who do you think a big name that's going to get traded during the draft? I said either Odell Beckham or Trent Williams. You can go to my page right now, you'll see I said Trent Williams. So I know he's coming to the 49ers, no. And I said to myself, oh, boy, I feel blessed. So, that's what I felt. So I felt like him, Usyk, the kid from Arizona State, and I felt like Trent Williams was key. And then the kid Jennings will come in and fight for a competition, but the 49ers got some receivers in depth with it. Jalen Hurd will be back healthy. Trent Taylor can compete. He was pretty good. Wes Welker is the wide receiver coach for the 49ers. Wide receivers coach. So, he's looking at all the dynamics of guys. So, you got him. Deebo Samuel's going to be one of the receivers, of course. Kendrick Bourne has certified hands, but he isn't one of them guys that can say you can build a franchise around. So, I like him a lot. I think he should be there. Yeah. But I don't know if the organization feels like he's just one of the average guys. We know Deebo Samuel's there. He's over the hump. The rest of them are like here. Jalen Hurd was amazing at Baylor. But we got to see what he does in the field. And I'm not saying he can't. I feel like he's gonna be the next person. Then you think about Kittle. You got Kittle. Then you have Bourne, losing Emmanuel Sanders hurt. This kid out of Arizona State probably is going to – when you get drafted in the first round, usually a guy that goes on the field immediately. So I'm thinking about those two guys, and that's it. Trent Williams is going to be amazing. The thing about the 49ers got rid of Matt Breida this year and let him go to Miami. But I said to myself, the 49ers offense is not a offense catered to a player. The offense is catered to is by committee. So when Breida fumbled a few times in the playoffs, Mostert got a lot of carries. Even with Tevin Coleman hurt, he had a breakout game. So when I look at the offense and running backs, it's a running back by committee. It's not necessarily a running back, a star running back that has to be back there to make things happen. So how the way Kyle Shanahan dials up plays, even in the Super Bowl, a lot of people try to question his play calling. It was not Kyle Shanahan's play calling. I looked at the footage. It was some throws, and I love Jimmy G that he missed. That was wide open throws instead of going deep here in that third, kill across the middle wide open. Kyle Shanahan calling correct plays. It's about the execution of the plays. So when I look at those guys, I look at those draft picks and stuff, I'm saying to myself, like, this team is really good. This team is really good. I love the draft for the players they got. So they pretty much back where they're at, fully loaded. Team need beware. They got a tough schedule coming up. But as far as the NFL draft is what you guys said pretty much. Cowboys had a great draft. But here's my thing, and I'm going to leave it at this. Cowboys have a great everything every year. On paper, the Cowboys are supposed to win the Super Bowl every year.
Yep.
So when I look at draft picks and stuff like that, it's like with any other team, if it's the LA Chargers or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when you look at draft picks, you're like, oh, whoa, okay, we got something. When you look at the Cowboys making these picks, like, oh, okay, all right, let's see what they're going to do. And it's the same thing every time. No matter what they have on paper, it's the same result. It gets old. It's like you saying you talk about the Cowboys and what they do. You pick this team every year. You pick this team to go to the Super Bowl this year. And the San Francisco 49ers did it. This team you predicted to go to the Super Bowl did not even make the playoffs in the weakest division in football. The weakest division in football. and we'll get to that later. I mean, people probably say that Kansas City had a weak division, it's neck and neck, but still, we know Kansas City is good. We know Kansas City is going to be there. The Cowboys every single year does this stuff. It's like, man, I'm ready to go to sleep. When you talk about Cowboys, it's like, okay, another boring story. Any other story, I'll be like, I'm happy. Go ahead, Brad. I thought you were about to say something.
Oh, no, I was just saying it's boring or whatever unless you skip Bayless. I mean, he can't get nothing. Come on.
Yeah, he got it.
We're all ready to hear the cries of "We Dem Boys" and the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl in Week 4, and then 2 months later, we're going to just laugh at them again at some point. That seems to be the common thread.
And I like the team they got, the team they built on the offensive end. We don't know what that situation. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. Defensively, we don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe they'll shock us. People say they're gonna get scored on the line. Which we really don't know, but we'll see then. But that's the problem with it. You're in the division with Eagles, a fresh start Eagles. Eagles beat you in one division last year. Everybody and their mamas and granddaddies were hurt on the Eagles. And they found a way to beat you in the playoffs. You know, so I'm like, okay, you got them. Redskins got a new coach. The Giants have a new coach. But the offensive coordinator, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong. Is Jason Garrett the offensive coordinator for the Giants?
Yeah.
That's
he is.
Very interesting. We will really see how good of an offense coordinator he is. And he has a good guy like Daniel Jones. And he has a running back like Saquon Barkley, which is interesting. You had a young Dak in Dallas. And you had Ezekiel Elliott. But the thing I don't think I'm going to give a pass to on Jason Garrett this year. Y'all may agree, disagree. I'm going to get your thoughts. Is that he didn't call the plays this year. Am I correct? I think Kellen Moore called all the plays this year. He just was a head coach. We will really see him put his IQ back in play. Remember, before he got the head coaching job, he was a really good coach as an OC, and then they gave him the job. Then after that, everything else went away. So, yeah, tell me your thoughts, man. How you feel about him being an OC? Do you think he's a better OC or what?
I mean, I'm not too sure. I mean, I know, he's had some success and everything like that as the head coach for a long time, like, as far as, the playoffs. But as far as, like, when you want someone to take you over the hump, like, that person to take you to the Super Bowl, not be a perennial, like, playoff first-round pick, I don't really think Jason Garrett's kind of the way to go with that. Like, he can maybe get you from being, bottom half of the league to maybe, mid half, but it's not going to take it over the top.
That's another thing, too, like I like to discuss, too. Like, the pressure of being in Dallas is crazy. Like, a lot of guys go be successful elsewhere after Dallas. I think Jason Garrett is more of a position coach or maybe an offense coordinator, not a guy who's going to lead a team. So he's a guy who's going to need guys who really know their skill sets and their positions. He's going to need guys around here who's really good at offense coordinator and defense coordinator. And he kind of leads from there. But he's not a guy that's going to be in detail for every little thing. And that's just with head coach. Like, on any level, man, you got to know your positions. You want to be a head coach, you got to know just about every position in the team. Unless you just naturally gifted to get away a loophole around that. But, a loophole around it. But I don't know. But next subject, man, NFL regular season. How you guys feel about your regular seasons coming up? What's the most dangerous game to you guys? Who you got going preseason if everything is up and well to the Super Bowl?
Go ahead, Derek.
I mean, I just saw the Chargers schedule about 15 minutes before we started, and it looks all right. Like, the beginning looks a little rocky. I know there's away games at the Saints, at the Buccaneers. I've kind of accepted, like, okay, that's not going to be a good time. But there's like the middle of the schedule is okay, and then like the very end is fine outside of the away game at the Chiefs. But I would say that 9-7, 10-6 is reasonable. It kind of depends on how the game against the Raiders in Vegas comes along, but in the AFC, that's actually not bad, just because outside of maybe 5 teams, everyone in the AFC has some serious questions to answer. So we're at a point where 10-6 could be good enough to get you in the playoffs on that side. So if that's the case, I'll take it. Like, I'm all right with that.
What it takes in your favorite team, the LA Chargers, do they have what it takes to even kind of get a win, at least one win off the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champs?
I mean, they did it before, so it's not like that's a problem now, because now they know they can do it. Their defense is good. The offense, I think, is going to be a little better just because Tyrod Taylor is a little bit safer. He knows Anthony Lynn's system, and we know what he is at this point, but what he is took the Bills to the playoffs. So I have confidence. I have confidence in that regard. So I think the thing is that when they beat the Chiefs defense was kind of bad, because last year they were average to above average, and they just ran through everybody up until the end. But if the Chiefs defense kind of regresses, which they did lose a few pieces, so it is possible. So if that happens and the Chargers offense steps up, is able to keep everything all together, then I would say they have a shot. And honestly, that would be huge.
How do you feel about Joey Bosa? Do you think he's coming back next year or he's going elsewhere?
I mean, I hope so. Like, honestly, if I'm Dean Spanos, I'm just writing a check saying, just put how many years and how much money you want. We'll handle the rest of it. And that's it. Because I love the guy. I want him to stay. I think he's a top-flight pass rusher, and those don't come around very often. And even if you trade him, it's very similar to the Khalil Mack deal. How much value are you really going to get out of everything? Right. So I think that the thing is, I know they have a lot of guys that they need to get all signed and everything. But especially with Joey Bosa versus Melvin Ingram, because those two are both heading into a contract year. But if I were to choose one of them, I would say that I'm fine letting Ingram go if it means we can give some more money to Bosa, because we know he's going to get the big boy extension. Bosa's younger. He has a little better stats over the last few years, I would say. So obviously there's like a couple of health things, but those can get dealt with over time. It happened with Keenan Allen before, so there's that. And you just focus on getting Bosa's extension, then you focus on getting Derwin James's extension when that's up, and that should be okay. At least I would hope.
Yeah. I think Joey looks good in San Francisco on red. All right,
you already have one, so don't get greedy.
What you got to say?
The Steelers decided to double dip on Watt brothers, so maybe Bill O'Brien will give them JJ for a box of scraps next. Who knows?
Everybody, he might as well. I know, right?
It works. Whatever works.
What you got, Brandon?
I was gonna say, I know you mentioned Dean Spanos, Derek, and for some reason I could just see him screwing this up somehow, some way.
I do too, and that's what makes me scared. I'm just like, please don't do what I think you're going to do and lowball him again. You did it once. We don't need it again, please.
Anyway, so Dean Spanos aside, just kind of looking at the Bucs regular season, we got usual cast of characters going up against, division foes. One game outside of the division I'm definitely got penciled in is Week 12 against Kansas City. We're going to be at home, so we don't have to worry about Arrowhead. So I think if there's any, I think that'd be probably our best chance at an upset if there's any for this year. Like, I know we got New Orleans, and I think they're probably still favored over us, so you can maybe count them as an upset. But I'm talking legitimate Super Bowl contender kind of upset. And I don't know, man. You get Patty Mahomes out of Kansas City, you get Tom Brady at home with Gronk and all them. It's gonna be close, but you might be able to pull it out. I think our biggest threat, aside from Kansas City, is probably New Orleans, just because they're a division foe. They've been the top dogs in the division for a long time, and you can never sleep on Drew Brees, no matter how old he gets. Same thing about Brady. As far as a record for us this year, I could see us probably going anywhere from like 10-6 to maybe, if all the bells and whistles go right, 12-4 maybe, somewhere in that range. Getting a wild card spot, possibly division title. So.
All right, my turn. The LA Chargers, it's a tough uphill battle with the champs. Maybe they're on that high, so maybe the LA Chargers can pull through. Am I saying they're gonna pull through? I don't know. Patrick Mahomes is. He got the 4th year, the 5th year option. He's looking for $200 million. So if he can make a Super Bowl, he probably the highest paid quarterback in the history of football.
Yep.
So you got to deal with that in the weapons. Now, will they sign other players behind him after they give him this contract? I don't know. I don't think so. For your instance, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Whew! We don't know. Teddy Bridgewater's manageable. He's not going to throw the game away. It's not going to be no blowouts in Carolina. We don't know if Matt Ryan them cooking, but Ty Gurley going to Carolina, and you still got Julio. They might be a better team. And like you said, you got Drew Brees for the next 2 years, just like Tom Brady's for the next 2 years. That division is going to be brutal. It's going to be a high-scoring division. Do we know who's going to win? We don't know. We'll wait till we see. But the good news is, for me, I want y'all to beat each other up. Because the 49ers can walk to the Super Bowl. Let's just beat each other up. So I feel good. For my record, y'all probably like, what? I'm looking at 14-3. No, 14-2. I was going to say 13-3. Oh, I saw you, Derek. You're like, whoa.
That's bold, man. The NFC West is crazy. I mean, Seattle has Russell Wilson, so that's good. Arizona's going crazy this offseason. Like, I've loved what they've done. And the Rams, I think they go down a little bit, but they're still the Rams, so they'll probably still hover around 500 no matter what. And the NFC West is always a bloodbath, it seems. It seems like every team always wins at least 2 or 3 games in the division. And it seems like so no one's going to go undefeated, so I imagine that's going to be a little difficult. And plus, everyone wants to take them down. They have that stigma on them, too, so I'd imagine they could probably go somewhere. They'll probably still win the division, but I think they'll be a little closer to the Seahawks than anything. I still think they'll probably go farther in the playoffs than them, though. Yeah. I'll give them that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, too. I know it's a tough division. I get it. I know the division tough. You do Russell Wilson twice with anything. Russell Wilson had different receivers, different than anything. He finds a way to win. I know that. The Arizona Cardinals, my thing is Kyler Murray ready to be dial that notch up this second year? Is he ready to dial it up? The thing that got me was Isaiah Simmons ended up landing into the Arizona Cardinals' lap. I'm still trying to figure out why the Giants didn't get him. But the thing about the draft, and I understand, guys, is that when a team, the one thing I do notice, when a team drafts an offensive lineman, if you draft any other position, you might say, why you make that pick? Why you make that pick? We draft offensive lineman, I'm like, man, hey, you can't go wrong with offensive lineman. I get it. So I can't even debate or say anything about offensive lineman. You need those. And I was surprised the Giants didn't pick him. But for him to land in the Cardinals' lap, I said to myself, my God, if you'd have stayed a little bit more, stayed a little bit further, we probably could have got him. We got rid of a few pieces, but we ended up getting killed off, which was good. But I look at the 49ers, man, it's a team by committee. Something similar to the Patriots. You never know who's going to do what. So it's easy for them to win. If they stay healthy. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the greatest QB in football. No, he's not. But he is what I tell my kids. He does enough. And when you do enough, you can win. I ain't saying you got to be Aaron Rodgers like a Drew Brees or Tom Brady. But you can do enough. This year, he did enough. He had games where he played well against New Orleans in New Orleans. He had some huge numbers throwing the football, and the running game wasn't there. The thing about New Orleans is when I look at these teams in Super Bowl-wise, when I'm talking about, New Orleans' team reminds me of like with Aaron Rodgers. Drew Brees has that will to win, but if he can't be on the field, they can't win. For some reason, that defense lets him down in the most crucial moments, and it isn't even Drew Brees' fault. Aaron Rodgers, defensively for years after the Super Bowl he got, was never that good. He never had a sturdy running back. I don't know if they didn't want a sturdy running back, a really good running back, or they was more of a pass-heavy team and didn't care about a running back, or their defense just wasn't there. They found ways to win. Those guys, man, those two teams right there alone, it's kind of like they're always in the running, but they're there in the middle of the pack, but actually should be better than the middle of the pack because people in the media always put them as top dogs, not because of the overall teams, because of who's leading the team at the quarterback. And that's the thing. So that's why it's always easy to say with your situation, you look at it like Man, we got a good team now, man. We probably beat Drew Brees. We probably go to the playoffs. We probably go to the Super Bowl. Because we have a team now legit. Drew Brees really doesn't have. He had always had weapons. He always had good receivers.
Yep.
And over these years after they left the Super Bowl, they still haven't made a Super Bowl appearance since. That's because that defense put them in tough situations.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers has made it to 3 NFC championships. He went to the Seahawks in the NFC championship. The Atlanta Hawks lost. And, of course, he lost to the 49ers this year. So he's been there with little to nothing, but they need more. Those two teams need more. So that's why I say it's hard for them to get there. That's why I say whoever comes out of NFC West, if it's Seattle or us, I feel like it's a road that these two teams can have a chance to play in the Super Bowl. It ain't like the other two teams where you say maybe, maybe not. If they come out of this NFC West, they have a chance. Russell Wilson is a bad man, as they say about Aaron Rodgers. I get it. But the 49ers overall team, and they lose a few players, the overall team is good for the defense, tight ends, running the ball by committee. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have to do as much as Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has to literally put the ball in his hands and make plays to win. Jimmy Garoppolo can have some games where he can throw the ball a lot. Some games he may hand it off to 4 running backs and let them just do what they have to do and ready to play action. So I said 14-2. But I'm gonna go back to 13-3.
Yeah.
Just for sakes. Just to be on the safe side of the NFC. I'm looking at my schedule. We got the NFC East. We got the AFC East with no Tom Brady. So I mean,
that's fair.
Miami, the Jets, the Patriots, and the big Bills could be the only team to give us a hunt. But I'm looking at out of that division, we can easily go 4-0 or 3-1. The NFC East, the Redskins still rebuilding. We don't even know who that quarterback is. They don't even know who that quarterback is. So, so you still lost. When you got that problem, you still lost.
Yep.
The Giants have it, but we don't know what they have to win. The Cowboys, as usual, the best team in football, but we know how that goes. And the Eagles, we don't know how healthy the Eagles are going to get. The Eagles picked up a good pick when they got Jalen Reagor out of TCU. And then they picked up Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts is probably going to be a good quarterback behind maybe. But if you put Jalen Hurts against that San Francisco 49ers defense, he ain't seen that like that. This is the pro. This is the pros, baby. This is a different world. It ain't going to be no, you sit back there and chill out. Oh, no. That's why I look at when I look at those teams. So when I look at teams, now we got Green Bay back again at home, and we got the Saints. I'm still trying to figure out why we didn't play the Saints 3 years in a row in New Orleans, and they ain't came to San Francisco. I don't know what the NFL is doing. They're trying to set us up. This don't make no sense. We didn't play them 3 years, a non-divisional game in the same place 3 years in a row. Just don't make no sense. But that's why I feel like the 49ers are going to be pretty good. With the situation we got with COVID-19, they pretty much still got everything intact. A lot of teams going to be sluggish. We don't know when the season's going to start. The season starts, we got a team that's already prepared. A lot of you guys' teams have new acquisitions, stuff like that, to come in, and it makes sense.
I ain't got much. After seeing Tom Brady's workout videos, I'm feeling pretty good.
I know you will. Anything better than what you had.
I'll say this. When we meet in the NFC Championship game, our teams both will have ran through the gauntlet, so it's gonna be a good game. So
I got you. Now let's talk about what you were saying earlier, the good, the bad contracts, the not. Who's better, who's not? Who's really worthy? Who's getting lowballed?
Yep.
We're gonna talk about Dak Prescott, people.
Yep.
Do you guys think Dak is getting lowballed? A lot of people have been talking. Dak deserved this. Does Dak deserve that? Well, I'm gonna give you guys a chance before I even get to talk. But go ahead. Is he getting lowballed or not by Jerry?
He's getting highballed, man. Like that's way. I would give him at most 25 to 30 mils, somewhere in that range. Like, I mean, he's put up the stats. I'm not like, don't get me wrong. Like, he's up there in terms of the touchdowns, in terms of the passing yards, and that's great. And he doesn't turn the ball over nearly as much as Winston. So I take him over Winston any day. But as far as 35, 40 million. No, the only person, there's two people in this league I would consider giving that money to. And one's in Kansas City, the other one's in Baltimore. And my thing personally, I don't really agree with quarterbacks getting paid that much anyway, because, if you want to win, if you want to make money, by all means, get your money, get out, because I know football is a violent sport and stuff like that, and you want to make your money. Right. But if you want to win, sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of your personal income, and you're going to want to make a little bit less so you can bring in guys like, let's see, some good offensive linemen that can block for you, some wide receivers that can actually catch the ball, a defense that can actually keep you in games and not always make you have to drop back and throw Hail Marys all the time. So, this whole thing about the quarterback being the most important position, I get it, but that doesn't mean that, you make $40, $50 million and everybody else makes like $10 million and that's it.
I get it.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. Like, franchise quarterbacks don't come around very often, and honestly, I think there are very few guys who are worth $30 million. I would agree with Brandon that Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are both worthy of that number, and I would maybe add Deshaun Watson to that mix. I don't know yet. But as far as Dak Prescott goes, I think it's very complicated just because you're seeing Amari Cooper get a big extension. You're seeing all these guys get big extensions, and you're just feeling left out. You're just thinking, well, where's mine? Like, am I even going to be here next year? I don't know, because obviously at this point, like, who knows what the franchise tag is going to be next year. So this is it. Like, this is the year where they need to make a decision 100%. Are we going to commit to Dak or are we not? I think it's just going to be a two-way street at this point, because I think Dak is not going to get over 30 million. That is a no-go. And honestly, if he does, I would say, okay, then we'll just, because here's another thing that complicates everything. I actually looked up the 2021 quarterback class. It is loaded. Like, it has Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, obviously. Like, those are the big two. But even though Dallas is going to go nowhere near those guys unless they just basically give a Ricky Williams style offer or something like that, there's still some good choices. I mean, there's trying to think. I know I talked about this with some people, so let me just look through my phone. Actually, no, I don't even have them on my phone if I had a list, but there's still some good names. There's like Sam Ehlinger. There's Brock Purdy. There's Trey Lance of North Dakota State, who's really good. Some people could even say he's maybe Carson Wentz 2.0. Yeah, Carson Wentz, Easton Stick from the Chargers. So that's two quarterbacks in a row. Not bad. But either way, I think it's going to be very complicated, because the question is, what do they want to do? Are they comfortable saying that, all right, we have our core locked in for the next few years. We have Dak on his extension, and we have this long for a championship window. There are some pieces that we'll have to go with, but we'll just have to deal with it. Or are the Cowboys just going to decide that, okay, we have a lot of good pieces, but the problem is we can't pay Dak 25 million without really just breaking the bank and having to make cost-cutting moves that we don't want to make. So are we just better off drafting some hotshot rookie in the first or second round next year, or maybe even just getting somebody from a bad situation and just putting them in there and seeing, hey, we'll see if this works. So the issue with it is that Dak is in a very odd situation, I think. Arguably the most interesting quarterback situation of 2020 and beyond, just because we don't know what he's going to be like. He might be the best free agent quarterback next year, because we know that Mahomes, Jackson, none of those guys are going to hit the market. Right. I don't think that's disputed. But he finds himself in a very complicated situation, because does he want to go for the extension? And we don't know if there's going to be any contender that needs a quarterback outside of Dallas, or at least has a better shot to be a contender than Dallas. Or is he more comfortable just saying, okay, I've had my time here. This team's going to give me some money, so we'll see what we can do there. Ultimately, it's just going to come down to this season, I think. If it's anything like the beginning of the season, then they might be more willing to highball him a little bit. But if it's anywhere close to like the season that we got last year, where it's kind of inconsistent, kind of in between, he establishes himself in the middle, but not much else, then I would say probably if it goes over 20-25 million, it might be time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
I agree, like with both of you guys, and again, Derek, like you said, it's a tough situation. Like his situation came at the wrong time. Like with Jared, I'm gonna tell you, this is my vision and what I feel. It's not even just about the market and the money and the stats. Jerry is a guy who wants to win. Who, if you're not winning, you're average. If you're winning beyond winning, you're more than what it's worth. I think Jerry's perspective when he came into this season, it was about, okay, we're going to run the ball heavy, do enough control the clock, and win football games. They can't do that. That stats had to stood out more, obviously, to me, because he had to throw the ball more. In the fourth quarter, it was down by 2-3 touchdowns every game. So when you have to throw the ball more, then of course that stats going to look back. Oh my God, he has these stats. He had to throw the ball. You can't run the ball, you're down by 3 touchdowns. So, the real thing they really want to do, it was not about that to me. It's more so of them running the ball heavy with Zeke. That's why they gave Zeke that money. Even though his contract has stipulations, if he gets in trouble, it might be voided. But still, it was about giving him the ball, letting him, control the pace of the football game. They know their defense wasn't like that. They knew their defense was going to put them in tough situations. So they never want to put their defense in position to win the football game, the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. My thing is this, it ain't about the stats. Here's my thing, like, when you look at these quarterbacks and everybody keeps saying, like, he's supposed to get this, he's supposed to get that, blah, 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 blah. Other quarterbacks got this. Other quarterbacks, owners get this. The other owners are other NFL owners. They choose who they want to pay, who they want to pay. Just because Jared doesn't want to pay him doesn't mean that Jared's wrong. Jared, that's his money. Mm-hmm. That's his business. He can pay whatever. He can pay us 3 if he wants to, regardless of how you feel. I mean, he's one guy, and it's another guy's coming up next, and it's nothing about who the individual is. People saying Romo. I'm being wrong. Romo married one of the relatives, the granddaughter and the daughter. I mean, the money come back to the family, so he ain't losing there. Like, if divorce, the money coming back. So he ain't looking at paying Romo. He's looking at paying the daughter or the granddaughter. That's what he's looking at because the money's going towards them. That's what Lil said. So when I look at stuff, and I look at it, I don't even look at it just by the numbers of the stats. Stats and numbers mean a whole lot. Don't get twisted. I know it does. I think Jared looks at it in time. When you look at Jared in those things in that press box, Matt is on the way every game last year. Not every game, but a lot of games. Like, I can't believe it. The Cowboys had 9 lives, guys, to win the weakest division in football, the NFC East. It was so many chances handed to them on bad nights. Every week we saw the Cowboys can win this game to get in the playoffs. The Cowboys win this game to get in the playoffs. And I know y'all like, yo, the Cowboys still have a chance to get in the playoffs, and Philly end up taking it away. So when I look at stuff, man, I'm looking at stuff like you're asking for top money. The money you're asking for, even if the market not, you're asking for the best quarterback in football money on a year-to-year basis. Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers has took his teams to the NFC Championship 3 years in a row. Not 3 years in a row, 3 years in a decade, from 2010 to 2020. Made the playoffs every year with one receiver, maybe a running back, and a sorry defense. And played in division with the Minnesota Vikings, who was really good, and still found a way to make the playoffs and win the division against the Minnesota Vikings. You played twice. We're probably one of the top 10 defenses in football. Drew Brees, regardless of what they put on his offensive end, wins. Knowing his defense can choke at any moment, again, like they did last year against the Vikings and put them in bad situations. So you're asking for top 5 money, you're basically asking for money that's saying that, hey, if my team is not good around me, I myself have the power to will us to victory.
Yep. And
you don't. And when you ask for that type of money, $40 million a year, that's the money you ask. It's not about your regular season stat. We ask for $40 million, $30 million for what he's asking. That's going to, okay, you had great stats in the regular season. Good job, blah, blah, blah. The $40 million is like, okay, now you ask for money saying that you can carry us without whatever you have around you to victory. Yep. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have Russell Wilson, the Russell Wilson factor. He doesn't have Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady done it for years. But I ain't gonna put him in that category because I know. See, I ain't even want to go there. I'm just giving him 3, just I ain't put him in that category. So you asking for those 3 stats. When you're asking for them in a year, that means you saying no matter what's around you, you can win football games.
Yep.
And at the time, when I say time is wrong, you lost an NFC championship. You had, the NFC East divisional to get to the playoffs. You had a chance to get to the playoffs in the NFC East. Week's division football, you had 9 chances. When I say Jared's mind this is not about how good or whatever. I'm pretty sure you know Dak's talented. I know you're pretty sure you know Dak is good. But he also saying like, yo, you had 9 chances to win. And we're not in the playoffs. So you're asking for $40 million a year, and you can't get to the playoffs. You're asking for $40 million a year, and you can't make a playoff appearance. I understand the first 2 years and people saying they did good this and third. We talking about this year. And now if you'd asked for that money, those 2 years went to the playoffs, okay, maybe. And that's still outrageous to me, but maybe. But that's why I say time is everything. You asked at the moment when you couldn't make the playoffs and you asking for more. You're only as good as what you did last. Not what you done the first 2 years. We talking about what you done last year. And it's not about, I don't think Jared's the type of person that don't want to pay this and third. It ain't about that. It's more so Jared looking at his overall talent, just paid the running back. I paid a good defensive player. I just gave Amari Cooper money. You know, we know America's team has they can go win a field team to sell out seats and make a lot of money without making the Super Bowl. But the thing is, Dak, we just franchise tagged. You got $33 million. Let's talk about this next year and see what you do. Instead of you keep trying to beef and debate, you just, right now, it's like a relationship. When your woman mad, you done something wrong, you got to let them cool off. And they're going to figure out what would make sense. That's the situation with Jerry and Dak. Dak, you had 9 chances to get us to the NFC, to the playoffs in the NFC East, the weakest division in football, and you let me down. And now you ask for $40 million. Maybe you asked me the year before, well, you probably got that. But as of right now, no matter what stats you had, we still was outside looking in.
Yep.
So that's what comes to that situation. It ain't about just stats and the numbers. Jared knows, man, Jared got common sense. Jared knows his numbers are phenomenal. Jared knows it's great. Jared's about, I don't care if your numbers were below average if you're winning. So people try to compare him to Tannehill. Think about it. Tannehill wasn't great. No, Tannehill was not great at all. Tannehill took Mariota's spots. Mariota was terrible. But the thing that Tannehill did was manage the game to win football games. It wasn't about how good Tannehill was to get the money. It was about Tannehill knowing enough to win games. At the end of the day, winning cures all. Yeah. Tannehill didn't do nothing amazing, but he still got them to the AFC Championship, handing off the ball to Derrick Henry. Mariota could have probably done it, but at the same time, Mariota had other throws and stuff he done to lose his position. So that team was not that good until they changed to Tannehill. Tannehill went to the negotiation table saying, hey, look, Mariota was here. This is what happened. Tannehill got here. We changed. Regardless if you manage the game or not, winning matters. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Until Dak learns to win, he's going to have to take that Dallas discount. So.
Right.
We'll be the new master of a discount double check. We'll bring that back.
I got 2 more subjects, man. We'll be done, man. How you guys feel about the NJ documentary and, NBA and NHL?
Okay. All right, what do we want to start with out of those two?
I mean, we could do
MJ documentary. How you feel about what's going on?
Yeah.
Checking my news right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. It provides a lot of insights because this is from somebody who wasn't alive when Jordan was like in his prime, really just in his elements. And honestly, like I think when he retired, I was like 4 or 5 at the time, so I didn't really ever get to see him play. But obviously, you hear all of this, you hear the legend, then you see the highlights, and you think, okay, this guy was really good. But now all of a sudden, I feel this from someone who's went in not really being able to see Jordan in his prime. This provides a lot more substance to everything.
Right.
It kind of gives you that kind of gives you a window into what he was. And was he the greatest person in the world? Probably not. I think we could say that about a lot of people. But as far as just, I don't think that was really the point. I think it was just a sign of saying, this is arguably the greatest player of all time. And now all of a sudden you're seeing the history, you're seeing all the points of a legend. You're seeing even guys like Pippen and Rodman get their own little views and everything. You get to see all of that. And so I think it's definitely interesting. Plus, I do have to admit that when I saw Kobe again, I just had to go, aww. I just felt my heart sink a little bit. Just like, okay, here we go. This is where the not fun moment happens.
Yeah.
But it was all good. Like I've liked it so far. I think I'm gonna watch episode 6 later tonight. I haven't had much of a chance to do it lately, but it's been good. I do have to admit.
It's been interesting to me too. Go ahead, Brandon.
I mean, I grew up. I think I'm probably like 3 or 4 years older, I think, than you, Derek. So I mean, I think I got a little bit more of MJ. I think mostly what I remember, I think I was around like 9 or 10 when he came back with the Wizards. So that was most of my memories of Jordan growing up.
Shit.
I know. I'm 26.
Those are tough days, man. The Jordan seemed to come back.
Yeah, but I mean, I had a little bit when I was a littler kid. You know, when I watched Space Jam, and then also too, like I would see a little bit of the games as a kid. But you know, when you're 4 or 5, how much do you really remember of it? So it was nice to kind of go back and kind of refresh everything. You know, I've seen the highlights, and I'll admit, you know, I like Jordan. I am a fan. You know, he's up there as far as like, you know, favorite players of all time, even though I didn't see much of him. But it was nice to kind of see not just him, but the whole team as well. Like you were talking about, Derek, with Pippen, Rodman, Phil Jackson too. Like I know Phil Jackson gets a lot of flack these days because people say, "Oh, he had all the that's how he won. He's not that great of a coach. He just had great players." And it's like, look, for you to manage that much Michael Jordan's personality, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman of all personalities, like.
And then going to the Lakers and doing the same thing with Kobe and Shaq too.
Right.
Like you gotta have and the way he did it with just calm, cool, and collectedness. Like he probably wasn't the greatest X's and O's coach of all time, but to bring those guys together and also though too he just was able to take things here and there like pieces on their own that wouldn't have probably amounted to much. But when he helped bring them all together, and Jerry Krause too, you know, they all did it together. It was just the perfect storm, you know, that whole organization. And then, you know, of course, you know, Michael at the forefront and stuff like that. But again, you know, it takes a team to win. And it was really cool going back through history. I love going and seeing, like, you know, when he played the Celtics and the Pistons, you know, him constantly, you know, he got beat just like LeBron did, you know, and like Magic and Bird. Like a lot of those guys, you know, they went through adversity first. And then, you know, you see him finally coming up on the rise and, you know, getting to his spot where he's at. You know, it's a cool thing. And then the most recent one, episode 6, I won't spoil much for you, Derek, but it offered, you know, inside, you know, what it was like to be the best player in the world at that time. Whew. You know, you get a newfound respect for athletes that are at that level, you know, athletes that people like, oh, I wish I was this guy. And then, you know, you see how they're swarmed by all these people. They don't get a lot of time themselves. And it's like, you know what? I kind of do like having my own space to myself, being able to go home. You know, I'm content. So it's been really fun, and I'm looking forward to episode 7 and 8 coming out next week or this week.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys, man. It's an interesting documentary. I like all the players. Like I don't like to compare players. Like people, this was the perfect time they put it out. Like let's be real. This was documentary we probably out. You know, because people actually sitting home able to watch it. ESPN was smart and how they put it out to get it where it was at. So it made millions of viewers and it's done well. Because everybody always had a conversation in all sports talk. Who's the greatest of all time?
Yeah.
Some people say Jordan, some people say LeBron, some people say whoever. We know, I mean, they have different varieties of who they feel like the GOAT is. With this situation, man, it's interesting. Like it shows you like that's when culture and things started to change. When Michael Jordan really signed a deal for $250,000 to Nike, he really didn't want to deal with Nike. His mom told him, dad told him it was good. He wouldn't deal with Adidas or someone else. At the time, it was the basketball world. And Lord knows if I ever played no conference. I done played basketball for years. But man, ain't no way I can play in them hard bottoms. I would be hurt right now. But for that, and they told him, I think they said $1 million worth of shoes, $4 million in 4 years. I can't remember, but he ended up selling in 1 year $126 million. That's when everything changed. But they saw that.
Yep.
Then he sold $125 million more. That lets you know the culture. Like he at the time started a different culture. Meaning that everybody else, Magic and Bird, all them guys was good, but Jordan was on another level, from basketball watching to business to shoes to apparel. They saw all of that. Like that's a whole different. That's why you say Jordan the brand is different. Watching his leadership is good, but like Jordan in a situation by him being so popular, like you have to say no to a lot. And you have to say yes to something. It was all in business. It was never nothing personal, but like you did it for everybody. Would you ever have time to sleep? Would you ever have time to be to yourself, to smoke a cigar? Would you ever have time to drink your tequila? Would you have time to play cards or whatever with your friends? No, because your schedule's so busy. Time is everything. I really believe in it. And like he didn't have enough time in the day at the time for what he was. So maybe now he had plenty of time. Back then they had him everywhere. Like you can't go nowhere, without knowing Jordan, who he was, and like the brand alone was stuff. To your note, people do use bash on Phil Jackson from general manager or president, but Phil Jackson, the coach, was really, really, really good. When he was the president, he was putting in people that he thought they could fit. The only thing I hate about his president part was that he put in people that he thought was really good, but Phil forgot he wasn't coaching. You got other guys that got to coach them and put their stuff in. They still feel, even though you did come to field, but it's still your team because you coaching, so you still gonna put your stuff in. So in other words, I think that's why stuff never worked, because he wasn't really coaching. If he was really coaching, things would be extremely different. But he had to like put guys in. It's like he put guys in place for other guys to coach, but really not those guys players. Their system, their style. But to see him manage a lot of those players, man, people don't even understand. Doug Collins could have done that. Doug Collins put an assistant for Michael Jordan. Doug Collins cannot manage the attitude of Dennis Rodman. Ain't no way Dennis Rodman going to one of the spells and say, look, I need a vacation. Doug Collins is like, man, you don't get out of my face. By you doing Zen and yoga, it's spiritual. So you're able to understand individuals outside of just a sport as humans. Yep. So doing all that yoga and all that stuff does matter. Like, he understood that, and it meant a lot. Now, was Jordan the greatest guy in the world? He even said it. He said, I was doing what I had to do. Now, I may not have been a role model or not, but I was doing what's best. He also said you can find your own role model. That's what it is. I mean, when you're in that business, man, when you deal with a lot of people, in that world, and Michael Jordan being that top guy at the moment with no other competition and no other sport, he just about to say anything and everything you want. Nowadays, sports guys got to have to word everything. They have to have PRs to say everything politically correct. Even if they don't want to, they have to say it for business purposes. And, they can't just really come on the mouth and say whatever. So, for business purposes, they got to say stuff a certain way. Michael Jordan was lucky to come in that area where he didn't have to do that. The team overall was pretty good. The era was pretty good. I mean, it was just different. I just felt like, man, me personally, I just felt like Jordan came in and played in the right era. It was pretty much, you had other guys, but when you think of that era, it's Jordan. Yeah. In this era, you think of LeBron, KD, Kawhi, Steph Curry, probably Dirk, Dwayne Wade, you think of several guys. When you think of that era, you say Jordan, Scottie. Everybody else, Patrick, you don't hear that, but them guys don't make enough noise. Those other guys don't make as much noise as the other guys in this era. So, and I get it. Like, it made sense. He created culture. They respected it. Kobe even said if it wasn't for him, it was that because Kobe studied every move he had and did everything. So, when I look at the MJ documentary, man, I'm like, nothing shocking to me because I've seen him quite a few times. I've seen him be wrong. But I get it. Now we look at it like, man, it is what it is, So people got to say he had a different dog. He's a scorer. He wants to win. You know, he went through a bad boy situation. You know, it was just a blessing, like to see how he really is. The shock to me is like he actually put it on TV to show that side.
Yeah,
that was interesting. I thought you were about to say something, Derek or Brandon. Whichever one.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it does take guts to do that, and he did say that people probably weren't gonna like him. I mean, if I was him, I wouldn't really be bothered too much. I mean, you're already retired and stuff, but it's his mindset. And there was some things, that they touched on in the documentary about, he wasn't as active enough, for example, like with politics and stuff, or he wasn't doing
right.
And it's like, I get it. People, and there's sometimes, I may disagree with how a person does it. I may think somebody, should have done this, that way. But it's like, at the end of the day, that's their lives. That's how they chose to do it. And so, you can't fault them for doing what they think in that moment is the best course of action.
Right.
Only you as a person, you got to, if you think you disagree with it, it's like, okay, well, if you're in a situation like that, do it differently.
Right.
But no, it was really cool. And I was going to say, though, as far as talent in the 90s, I know you touched on, I think, like Barkley and Ewing.
Okay.
My boy Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon.
Well, no question. The best footwork in basketball. My guy, when I was coaching AAU basketball, he taught all my kids the Hakeem Olajuwon big man foot step, the head fake, the foot. Like, he always did that. So, no, I forgot. I apologize about Hakeem.
No, it's all good. I love him. He's like, I'd say if I had to have like a top three, it's Jordan, Tim Duncan, and Hakeem. Like, they're in my top three. I love those guys. And I always used to think if Jordan and Hakeem ever teamed up in '84, but maybe that's a topic for another time.
Yeah. Definitely.
That would be crazy. I'd just be like, wait, what? Like, this team is broken. But anyway, as far as like thoughts that I've had about it is that I think I look back to the whole thing with Jordan and then the bad boy Pistons. And I think that may have killed to me at least, it killed the argument that if you put Jordan in an era like today, he wouldn't be successful. Now, do I think he's going to score 40 or 50? No. But the thing is, when you compare eras, obviously people just think about what the defense was like, what the scoring options were, who was playing at that time. And you see a whole lot of arguments that just don't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, I saw someone say that the Celtics swept the Bulls and Greg Kite was there. It's like, yeah, Greg Kite in his all of 5 minutes in 2 series? Really? You think that made a difference? I saw that and I was just like, I know not to listen to you again. But as far as that goes, I think about it a little more. And I think that there's so many things about these players that we don't really take into account when we make that argument. We kind of have to assume things such as drive, mental state, just that killer instinct, all the intangibles that make a Jordan, that make a LeBron, a Kobe. Like, all great players in any sport have the intangibles necessary to really be successful. So when you think about it, like when Jordan decided that, okay, the Pistons are going to play rough, they're going to focus on me, then let's all just weight train. Let's build muscle. If we're not going to beat them with our skill-based game, let's get stronger and let's beat them at their own game. And then we're on a level playing field and we're more skilled than those guys. So then that was what led to it. So I think that obviously you have someone like Jordan in that era. And if you stuck him in the era of today, when obviously the 3-point is big, when defense isn't as strong as, actually I shouldn't say that, but defense isn't as heavily prioritized as it used to be. It's a little more physical, I would say. But I would think that at that point, Jordan would just say, okay, then this is the way the game's going. I'm going to play this game. I'm going to play the way this is. And I'd imagine that the same is true for if you put any of the great eras in any era of the game, if outside of their own, obviously. I would think that the game will come to them at some point. They have that mental ability to just lock in and succeed. And obviously the league's going to catch up at some point. It always evolves, and it would be the same if you put LeBron in the 90s. Then everyone's going to try and be like LeBron at some point. But I think that when you say let's compare eras, it kind of assumes that a lot of things that I just don't think are really fair. Yeah. And then the second point that I wanted to bring up was about the marketing, actually. I saw someone put up that said that marketing and the NBA made Jordan what he is. Now, do I disagree with that? Not really, but if you think about it, the NBA's always had the history of chosen ones. It's not just Jordan. He may have started it. He may have started it, or you could say that it started with really Magic and Bird, how they were the two top guys. Everyone knew that Jordan had all these big moments. Everyone knew that he was going to be great. But you've seen that now with LeBron, who was hyped up ever since high school. You saw it with Kobe, who was one of the most hyped up athletes of all time, arguably, and has only grown over time. And now you have guys like Zion Williamson, who was in the same boat, where he was seen all throughout high school, and then college he was put under a microscope the whole time. And even in the NBA, even though he only played half a year or something, he was still seen as being, okay, this guy's doing good. We'll throw him a bone and throw him in the Rookie of the Year conversation just because. Now marketing is obviously a big thing. I don't think anyone can dispute that, but I think it's kind of unfair to put it all on Jordan, just because, sure, I would say that as far as the marketing side of it goes, Jordan's the first real internationally known brand out in the NBA. I think that you can put LeBron on that list. I would say at this point you can put Kobe on that list as well. But honestly, when you really think about it, like when you think of marketing and when everyone says marketing made this man the GOAT, I think, well, LeBron's also marketed up. He's hyped up all the time. So why can't we make the same argument for him? It's just got really curious to me. And I thought to myself, well, I mean, we know how big he is. We know that his life probably wasn't easy with a paparazzi in his face, probably 100%. But I mean, I think that obviously marketing was big, but he's not exclusive in the whole thing, at least not anymore.
Yeah.
So, I just felt I needed to throw those out there a little bit.
You had to throw that out. I understand. The last topic, how you guys feel about the NBA, since we're talking about the NBA and the NHL not playing? I mean, your thoughts. I'll leave this conversation to you guys.
I mean, as far as the NBA, like, I mean, I work for the Orlando Magic, so it's like it kind of sucks.
Oh yeah. So how you feel about the organization?
I mean, I was very happy that when our season got cut short, what they did, what I thought was really cool. I don't know how it is for other teams, but with the Magic, they decided, if whichever games you were scheduled to work, they paid you for that shift, like a full day's wages. So I was like, that was really nice. That was really cool of them to do that. And, from working with them and people that I've worked with, I've heard nothing but positive things about it. And it really is, people have said it's a top 3 organization to be an employee of. And, my year over there, it's like, I can see why. It's a really great place. But yeah, as far as like the NBA as a whole, though, like it does stink, not being able to, like I was really looking forward to working some of the playoff games for both the NBA and the G League. And now, that those got cut short, at least for now, it's like, man, I really want to get back into it. It's really cool getting to sit. It's so cool getting to sit like courtside for a game. And when you see like LeBron or Giannis walking across, you're like, I didn't even have to pay for the seat. I'm just seeing
Nice.
I miss it. It's cool. So.
Well, I know who to call.
We all miss it.
When I come down there, I know you got me, don't you?
Huh?
You got me. I know who to call for tickets. Then I know you got me, don't you?
Unless you flying down to Florida, man, I don't know.
Well, there ain't no problem in North Carolina, baby. I can drive down there.
Hey, he's probably good. I'm probably a different story. I'm far out. That's the issue.
Everybody in all the groups, just call everyone. You'll see a mass exodus of sports fans just coming down here. I'll be like, crap, I gotta get 3, 4, 500 tickets. I don't know if I got that many yet.
We just see a massive U-Haul truck show up outside the arena. It's like, what are all these doing here? They all just come with like the tape and people's names written on it, saying this is who these tickets are for. This person has what, 200 or something, 300.
All you guys just say in the group, you guys are just like, oh, we're here with Brandon. They turn and look at me, I'm like,
I'm just going to point him out and say, that's my man right there. This is a man.
I'm going to be gone in a year, too, if that happens.
Oh, man.
I mean, hey, it is what it is. But, hey, I'm curious, Derek, to hear your thoughts on NHL because I know you're the hockey stud here, man.
Yeah. So I did like an NHL simulation. I realized they still need to do the blog post for that, but I have the notes, so that'll be up hopefully by this weekend. By the way, speaking of which, Brandon, I know that I need your football stuff by today or tomorrow, but it works either way. Different topic. We went on the tangents. Okay. Back to the original points.
Yes.
Hyping myself up a little bit there. Shameless self-advertising. Anyway, NHL. NHL. So I heard that because the thing is, and this is the same case as the NBA, there's a whole bunch of logistical problems I think they need to address because they start at the same time, they end at the same time. So I think my argument for the NHL can really qualify for the NBA too, but we'll see. But basically, the first logistical idea is where they're playing. Like the NBA, I've heard Las Vegas is an option, and that would be really good to me because honestly, they have the facilities there because the WNBA team in Las Vegas. Yeah, the Summer League plus the WNBA team plays in Mandalay Bay, so they could realistically quarantine there, and it would be okay. And the NHL, I think, would be in Toronto or Vancouver. I've heard are the two locations, and either one would be good, just because they have the amenities. They're both hockey-centric cities, so that's no problem. And they have the general climates in order to make everything work, I would think. So I would say that either one of those makes sense. You just really need to figure out where they're going to be, what's exactly going to be locked off from everyone else while this is going on, and just figure out how much time you're going to need it for. The second is going to be just what's going to happen with the seasons in general.
Yeah.
What I did for my NHL simulation was I just said they'll call the rest of the season off. They'll do the playoffs. They'll cut the records to about 68 games, which is the minimum, and then they'll just figure out the playoff format from there. Now, I've heard things like they could just play the rest of the games because they don't have that many left anyway, and they could just play a game like every other day or so, have a schedule, and just keep going from there. Now, obviously, that's going to mean a lot of lineup juggling, a lot of figuring out, do you want to keep your goaltenders fresh and everything? And I imagine the NBA would be kind of in the same boat, what with load management and everything. Do these players want to play 2 games in a row sometimes? Do they want to play a game every other day and not take a break? So I think that's going to be complicated a little bit, just figuring out how the schedules are going to go, if there's even a real benefit to playing the rest of the season out instead, or if you're just going to go to the playoffs, because you can make either one work. It's just a matter of figuring out what format you want to go with. And even the playoffs, I've actually heard the NHL was thinking about maybe doing more than 16 teams, like maybe just going to 24, or even just having all the teams in a tournament and just figuring out what to do from there. I don't know what they're going to do yet because I've heard so many things, and it sounds like everything's just being thrown out at this point because they don't know.
Yeah.
And the third that I think is the off season, just because we know it's going to be short. We know it's going to be weird no matter what happens. Like what's free agency going to look like? Because the contracts run out in June or July, I want to say. So that's going to be interesting in itself to figure out. But as far as the just off season goes, how is free agency going to be affected? Like, how long are we going to have to realistically pick up players? And for the NHL, what's the salary cap going to look like? Because I don't think they really locked in a number yet. And it was expected to be around 84 million at least for next year. But now all of a sudden, since it's a gate-driven league and there's no one coming in, that's going to go down by the wayside. So they could conceivably see maybe just a marginal increase, maybe something like 1 or 2 million. They could just freeze the salary cap. I would hope it doesn't go lower because that's a whole problem in and of itself. But now all of a sudden you have these guys who were on prove-it contracts, and Vegas actually has a really interesting case in Robin Lehner, who came over from Chicago. He took a 1-year prove-it deal to prove himself, to say, the last year I had wasn't a fluke. I can be a top goaltender in this league. I'm worth the starting goaltender money. And he's proven that. He did really good in Chicago. He's done good in Vegas so far. But all of a sudden, you have a situation where the salary cap isn't going to go as high as you thought. And all of a sudden, you're just thinking, like, okay, I don't know how much money I'm going to reasonably be able to make. And that's the same case for a lot of guys, I'm sure. Like, I don't know what they're thinking of, but obviously, whatever they're going to get is not going to be that. Now, I'm sure there's some guys who are going to be happy with whatever they get. They're just going to be happy to stick around in the league, be part of a team that can contend. But for these top guys like Taylor Hall, Alex Pietrangelo, Torrey Krug, the guys who want the big money, I don't know if they're going to get it. So you could see a lot of maybe 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3-year deals just to say, we know that this isn't what you expected, but we want you on the team, so we're going to get you on this contract, and then when the salary cap is up, you'll get your money, like one way or another. Like I honestly think, like, if I'm a player, that's kind of the route I would go, is just because I have the security, I have a job, which is always good in this time, and so as a result, like, I'm willing to say I'll take the year at almost the same price that I got, right. And then, like, we'll figure it out from there. Like, if the salary cap goes up, great, then I can get my extension then. Or I can get another contract from another team that has money and just go to that. I think, and then obviously the draft is its own deal, but that's all going to get pushed back to maybe a month or so before the season starts, which could be in December from what I've heard. So the thing is, like, you have to juggle all those. You have to figure out where you're going, what you're going to do, and how you're going to handle the aftermath when it happens. All I know is that it's going to be a very weird few months, and obviously the format that's perfect is going to, or at least as close to perfect as you can get, is not going to be very easy to get to. So I think it's going to be complicated, and I hope it happens, but the longer that we go without really hearing anything official out of it just makes me start to fear a little bit. Like, okay, because I'm sure they have a point in their mind saying, at this point, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I get it. The concepts and the good and bads of business and years and how long. Sheesh.
I just hope that we start, like, when everything gets back, I think the best option would just be to start with the playoffs. You know, both seasons have already pretty much gotten halfway through. You kind of see, like, you know, who's good and who's not. And the ones that, you know, want to make the argument, oh, you know, you need to give these other teams a chance to make their shot. It's like, well, you had your shot during a playoff spot. Last minute to do it. I'd have no problem with both leagues, like, starting the playoffs right away, just so we can get through this season quicker. And that way, though, too, the players have a little bit of a longer off season to kind of rest and rehab.
That would make sense to me.
Make a lot of sense to me. Well, people, guess what, folks? You heard raw thoughts from Derek Hegna, Brandon Crotchett.
Sure.
You guys, I appreciate you guys watching this episode, whatever time you're watching this. Day, night, morning, Pacific, Eastern time, Central. Enjoy everything that's happened on this episode. You guys have a great night, great day, great morning, whatever time you're watching this.